CNBCAfrica.com attended the Duke Corporate Education Seminar about identifying talent in the African continent. Among the delegates was former South African President Thabo Mbeki. Let's have a look.
There is a learned scholar from the Democratic Republic of Congo who wrote something about this leadership question on the continent and asked conducted a survey both inside the country and outside of opinion about African leadership. And in that survey, for instance, he says, he asked the question of the people that he was interviewing. He says there's a lack of effective political leadership in countries situated in sub-Saharan Africa. And he asks people at home and abroad to respond to this. And 59% based inside the continent strongly agree that there is a lack of effective political leadership in sub-Saharan Africa. That's 59%. And 68% are other Africans outside of the continent. Another question that he asks is, are people to indicate the level of satisfaction with the political leadership in Africa? And the response that he gets is that 53% inside Africa are dissatisfied, and 25% outside of the continent. He asks a question about social and political, whether the social and political leadership are in what he calls in harmony. And 50% within the continent say no, they are not in harmony. And 57% outside of the continent say not in harmony. They strongly disagree. And they also strongly disagree with the proposal that religious and political leadership are in harmony. 50% within the continent and 56% outside of the continent. I think these figures speak to this feeling of a leadership deficit on the continent generally. And he says that the study's results are alarming. And he says, first, the majority of respondents are of the belief that there's a lack of effective leadership in sub-Saharan Africa. And says the analysis of data reveals that countries located in the sub-Saharan region lack effective political and religious leadership. And secondly, over 90% of respondents living in Africa and 85% those living abroad were not satisfied with the kind of political leadership exercised in this region of the world. I do believe that what Dr. Kabashiki reports in terms of the survey of is correct, largely, in terms of the feelings of people about this leadership deficit. So, sometimes I ask myself this question when people talk about leadership, what are they talking about? And I think in many instances it relates to individual leaders, particularly talking about the political sphere, particularly the people who might serve in positions of presidents, partly with the belief that this is where policy originates from, the leader, the president, and implementation of policy and so on. So that if there's going to be any blame attached to anybody for any failures, it's this person, the president. It's not true in all instances, but of course in some instances, you do have a concentration and centralization of power of that kind. So I think it's important, therefore, that when we talk about that leadership, we should talk at both levels, both level of the individuals and the levels of the collectives of the leadership. Now, I'm going to read you the oath of office which Nelson Mandela read or made when he was sworn in May 1994. And he said, in the presence of those assembled here and in full realization of the high calling I assume as Executive President in the service of the Republic of South Africa, I, Nelson Mandela, do hereby swear to be faithful to the Republic of South Africa and do solemnly and sincerely promise at all times to promote that which will advance and to oppose all that may harm the Republic, to obey, observe, uphold, and maintain the Constitution and all laws of the Republic, to discharge my duties with all my strength and talents to the best of my knowledge and ability, and true to the dictates of my conscience, to do justice to all, and to devote myself to the well-being of the Republic and all its people. And so help me God. So that's what he said. Now I'm citing this because I think in terms of the political leadership, this kind of issue becomes important. When this person who becomes a leader, in terms of the expectation of the population, to what are the question arises, to what are they committed to anything? Are they just committed to themselves and family and so on? I'm now president and so I'm going to loot for my personal benefit, or what is it? What should we expect? And I'm quite sure that many of us, that includes me, would take a matter of the oath like this that I've just read, more or less as a matter of formal ritual. This is how, when people get sworn in, this is what they do. There's a judge there, and then you raise your hand, you read this, and you say, so help me God, and that's the end.
That was former South African President Thabo Mbeki.